I think people, when they first come to Singapore, they don't realise that that exists here.
What there are lizards, there are snakes, there are wild boar, there are monkeys, and there are pangolin. And so there are colugo. We'll come to pangolin. So there are colugo. I've taken 1,233 people from 47 different countries. Slowly and slowly, it's just got bigger and bigger.
You're getting a good workout, but it's not as low impact. You're getting to talk, you're getting to be in nature, and you've kind of got, you're having that connection. It's this perfect equation, or like perfect melting pot.
Doing this, having that time out daily, just gives you a little bit of an ability to be able to sort of think a bit more about yourself, your personality, and your well-being.
Welcome to Upward Spiral Podcast, where we explore the power of positive change and continuous improvement to create an upward spiral in all areas of your life. In today's episode, we're diving into the incredible connection between nature, well-being, and personal growth. So if you're feeling like you're stuck in a rut, seeking motivation, or craving a deeper connection with the world around you, this episode is for you. We'll discover how spending time in nature can promote mindfulness, reduce stress, and spark creativity, all essential ingredients for fueling your upward spiral. I'm your host, Michelle O'Brien. I'm a marketer, I'm a marathon runner, a mom, and an alcohol-free advocate. And I discovered that reaching my full potential meant redefining my relationship with alcohol and embracing a life of purpose and continuous growth. So through this podcast, I share my journey and the inspiring stories of others who've created their own upward spirals. Today, we have an extraordinary guest joining us. He's an accomplished lawyer, a dedicated supporter of Dementia Singapore, and someone who finds solace and inspiration in the embrace of nature. He's currently on a mission to walk as many loops around MacRitchie Reservoir as possible to raise awareness and funds for Dementia Singapore. We're going to tell you a little bit more about that immediately. So with his incredible memory for numbers and facts, just wait for this because this honestly is mind-blowing. Unwavering determination and genuine passion for making a difference. Please now welcome to the show the incredible Tom Platts.
Good morning, Michelle.
Hi.
What an introduction.
Thanks. Thank you for being here. I don't feel like I've done it justice.
Well, I'm honoured to be here. It's great. Well, I think you've done it very good justice, but I think, as you say, there's an awful lot behind what I've been doing, which I'm really pleased to be able to talk to you about today.
I know. So let's just get into it. So what are you actually doing?
Well, since January the 7th, 2023, and we'll come to why I started doing it, I have walked or run around MacRitchie Reservoir, which is a between 11 and 12 kilometre loop of the jungle here in Singapore on 733 occasions. So almost every day, pretty much every day, over the last 2 years. And it's our 2-year anniversary loop party up there tomorrow morning. We start at between 6 and 6:15 every morning. We do the loop. And then for those that have to go into work, they get into work thereafter. But it's an early start for me, but it's been a wonderful experience.
Yeah. And as someone who's joined you for
yes,
one
you
of
have.
those walks,
Yes.
It's brilliant. And it's one of my favorite places in Singapore because for those that are listening or watching and don't know Singapore, it's a very small island. There's 5 million people on this island, and sometimes it can feel quite claustrophobic.
That's right.
And you get out to kind of McRitchie, and I feel like you can breathe. You know, for me, it's like there's jungle, then there's also open space, and there's water, and you can see the sky.
That's absolutely correct. That's absolutely right. And I think when I bring people there, a lot of people have come to me from various different countries from around the world. In fact, we've had people from 47 different countries come now as a result of this. And when they come, they tend to come to me, as you said, I'm a lawyer. They tend to come to Singapore to do meetings, to work meetings. And they use Singapore often as a stopover before they go to Hong Kong, Australia, or somewhere else from wherever they may be. So what I've found is that when I say to people, well, if you're coming, let's do a meeting, let's catch up, do whatever it might be, but let's do it in the outside, in the nature. Yeah. Come and see the real bit of Singapore, which is MacRitchie Reservoir and other places in the sort of jungle. And you won't have to spend all your time in an office block, in a hotel room, or in a bar. And that's what this has been about.
I think people, when they first come to Singapore, they don't realise that exists here. But I always found peace there. My 10 plus years in Singapore, it's one of the places that I go when I feel like I need to reconnect to myself. and just be in nature.
The irony of this is that now I know McRitchie inside out. I've been there so many times, as I've said. But up until January the 7th, 2023, and I've lived in Singapore like you for nearly 13 years now, I'd only been there once before. So it's a bit of a strange coincidence now that I haven't done it so many times.
Yeah. I love this. And so let's go back to the origins of this. Like, how did this start? How did this go from one walk to, what was it, 733? 33.
Yes. It all goes back to 2022. So 2.5 years ago, really. And during that year, I had quite a difficult year. My family, who had lived here in Singapore with me at that stage for 10 years, had moved back to the UK. And I was here, just as many people do, doing my sort of working life here and then commuting back and forward to the UK where I'm from. And it was pretty lonely, to be honest with you. And it was not an easy year. As well as that, I broke my shoulder, and you don't do it the way I did it as a 42-year-old at that stage. I broke it skateboarding. Yes, you may laugh. Okay. But I broke my shoulder, and so you sort of forget how important your shoulder is for doing any activity, sleeping, exercising, all that sort of stuff. And it basically combined with being a little bit uncertain as to my sort of future, with the sort of commuting back and forward, the family having left, Singapore being a very different place as it has been now for a few years post-COVID, and breaking my shoulder. It was a pretty rubbish year. I also have a couple of cases of dementia in the family, in my extended family. And at Christmas time in 2022, I went to visit one of the people who has it. And it was quite clear that the dementia had taken a significant turn for the worse. And it was very sad to see. And I'd never really had anything to do with it previously. I'd just seen it in practice, in action. And I was pretty shocked, as were others. So I got back to Singapore at the beginning of 2023. And in the spirit of New Year, new resolutions, wanting to make sure that this year, 23, was not going to be quite as miserable and lonely as 2022 was, I would do something to be different. So good starting point is January the 1st. As you say, no alcohol. I do drink alcohol, and if I drunk less of it, I don't drink a lot, but if I drunk less of it, given the amount of activity I've done, I'd be nothing of me. But in the sort of spirit of 1st of January, New Year's resolutions, I thought, right, dry January, and let's try and do something to do good and to do something change, and just try to zhuzh up what had been a difficult year. But of course, I got off the plane, and as is typical in Singapore, I had a phone call from a client who said, hey, can we chat about a deal we were talking about last year? I was literally in the taxi on the way back home from the airport. And I said, yes, that's fine, okay. He said, can we go for a beer? And I thought, oh gosh, here we go. I really didn't want to say yes, because I wanted to stick by my resolutions. But of course, what did I do? I said, yes, let's do it. Let's go for a beer and let's have a chat about it. Within 10 minutes, I started feeling a bit guilty. And I thought, come on, pull yourself together. Let's do what you said you were going to do. So I rang him back and said, hey, Mike, listen, rather than go for a beer, let's go and do some exercise. I thought, let's go and walk around, run around, whatever, MacRitchie Reservoir, which as I said, I'd only done a couple of times previously, but I thought it might be an interesting thing to do. So he said, great idea. So we went, we arranged a time to do it. And the first one we started on was January the 7th, 2023. In between time, I then rang him back and said, I've had another idea. And he said, okay, it doesn't sound like you're very busy at the moment, which was true. I said, what I'm going to do, Mike, is ask you to give me an amount of money equivalent to the amount that you think you would have spent on buying beer. What I didn't say, of course, was that given that I was going to be providing him with the beer, I'd have been buying it, obviously, particularly as he's my client. I also didn't tell him that I was on dry January. So I said, I think I'd have been quite thirsty. And so he said, only you, Tom, could do this. But okay, sounds like a good idea. Because I said, I give it to the firm's charity of the year in Singapore. So it wasn't related to dementia at this stage at all. We met up, we did a loop, we had a really good chat. We chatted about all the things we needed to chat about on the deal. We'd done that in the first 20 minutes. And then we just chatted about life, whatever it might be. We saw 2 snakes, and it was brilliant. And he said at the end, that was great. Can I come again? I said, yes, that would be great. Really, really enjoyed it. Thank you. And then over a period of time, I just started to do it more. And with this, I could feel that there was something starting to click. It was fun. I was enjoying it. I was meeting new people. Those people that perhaps the year before I'd ignored, or I had said I was going to go out with, but then maybe not gone out with and not been such a great friend to. I decided that I was going to try to do it more and get to see them. So it was completely organic, and it just grew and grew from there. And it really did take off after a while. Yeah. But we can come to that.
Oh my gosh. So you just decided, so it was, you were on the flight on the way back and you decided, you know what, I'm going to walk McRitchie every day?
No, it's basically in the back of a taxi.
Yeah.
And it was when he said to me, can we go for a beer? And I said, yes. And then I thought, come on, that's not the right thing. Let's do something else.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, why not go to McRitchie? It was literally in the back of a taxi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you had such a nice time that you were like, I'm going to do that again.
Yes.
And that was like the next day?
Yes.
And the next day?
Yes.
And the next day?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
That's wild, right?
As I say, it is a little bit OCD, but it completely grew. And so I started to say to people, well, let's go to McRitchie rather than go for meetings. And they'd be like, well, no, I just want to do a meeting. It's like, okay. But I was getting up very early to do it because you have to, obviously, it takes about just over 2 hours, 10 minutes if you do the shorter loop.
Yeah.
And depending on the number of people you take. But I said, well, we get there for 6:15. So it's a sort of 5:30, 5:45 start. We'll go in the dark. It's pitch black when we first get there, which makes it more exciting. Yeah. Yes, it just went from there. And I started to say to more people, why don't you come and join me in McRitchie? And most people said, great idea, but no thanks, I'd rather be in bed. But then as it progressed, I started to use social media a bit more. And people started to hear more about it. And suddenly the numbers started to grow and grow and grow. And what I'd found was that initially I was doing one-to-one, so it was me with one other person. But when I put it onto social media, I put it on to Facebook and onto LinkedIn. And I said, listen, I'm going to try this year to do 75 laps of MacRitchie Reservoir, which would equate to about just over 1,000 kilometers. And if people want to come and join me, great. And I'm going to try to raise some money for a charity. At that stage, I hadn't really worked out what it was going to be. I put it onto LinkedIn and said I'd do it every morning until I reached 75 laps. That would give me amount of time to be able to travel back to the UK. I go to the US on business quite a bit too. So it's not a huge task, but it just gave me something to sort of focus on. And I found that within 3 days, my next 6 weeks were booked out every day, twice a day, which was pretty humbling.
With friends or strangers?
Bit of both, mainly friends, but some strangers started to pick up on it too. So what it meant was that my friends and I would be there at 4:30 in the morning. So we'd start at 4:30. I do the first loop 4:30 till about 6:45, something like that. I'd have a 15-minute break, and then I'd meet people at 7, and we'd do another loop 7 till 9:30. By which time I'd done 25 kilometers, and I'd be up. I'd then have to go straight to the office. And obviously that was pretty unsustainable, but it was pretty exciting. And I was really humbled that I had so many people interested in it, but these were small numbers at the time. So what I thought I'd do is I put together groups of people, because I realized that after 3 weeks of doing it twice a day from 4 o'clock in the morning, I couldn't keep it going, what with work as well. So I thought I'd put groups of people together. So the first one I did was I pretended that we were doing an international M&A transaction. So I had a lawyer, I had a lawyer who represented the other side. I had a bank, I had a target, I had a shareholder, an insurer, a broker, a PR person, whatever it may be, shareholders. And we went around pretending to talk a little bit about doing a deal together. And it was just fun. It was just basically a group of people. But since then, I've put more and more groups of people together. So that's what it's really all about, is creating a community of people together. So I've done Women in Tech. I've done Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Day. I've done Intellectual Property Day. I've done Investment Banking Day. I've done Girls in Tech. I've done all sorts of different events. I have some friends of mine in the UK who came over because they were advertising a new television series they're doing. So we got them to come out, and we did a really big group of, I think, 45 people, where they ended up talking about the television expedition that they've done, involved in I don't know if you know the Last Overland series, which was where a Land Rover Series 1 was driven from Singapore back to London. It was 1955 Land Rover Series 1. So it's
amazing.
all on Channel 4. So they came over and we did a loop with them too. And then slowly, it's just got bigger and bigger. I didn't know what I was doing in terms of the charity, and I was taking money from people. So I realized that actually I was sitting on a couple of $1,000s in cash. And I thought that come the end of January, I'd better do something properly with it. Otherwise, it's probably just going into my coffers and I'd end up spending it on dinner or my shopping or something. So I spoke to our office manager at the firm and said, who is our charity this year? She said, we've actually just come to the end of a cycle. So we're selecting a new one now. So I thought, having seen, the people with dementia back in the UK, it had taken me so strongly. I was so struck by it that I'd write to Dementia Singapore and just say, look, I'd like to raise funds. I've got a bit of an idea, but I'm not really sure what for. Would you let me, raise money for you? Which was the right approach to take here in Singapore, because they want here to check that you're the sort of suitable person to do it. So they did a sort of fit and proper test on me, and apparently I passed. And so they sent me a link, and then I have the Just Giving page, and that's sort of gone from there. And since then, I've got very, very close with the folk at Dementia Singapore. I've been appointed to the fundraising board and the board generally of it. So so I've got very close to them now, and because they've really started to appreciate, having not known what I was doing previously, they've started to appreciate that actually this has really grown some legs and it's gone pretty well.
I also kind of like the connection as well. Just you've obviously kind of got the personal connection to dementia, but getting people moving, getting people out in nature, getting people seeing daylight and all of those things that can help.
So far I've taken 1,233 people from 47 different countries. Amazing. I have 3 different spreadsheets that I run at any time. There's a website being created now, and actually an app as well. So because it has been a labor of real love, but it's been pretty intense just trying to organize everything at the same time. But I really enjoy it, and I've grown so much as a result of it. But yeah, it is great. And going outside, being in nature, the wildlife you see, the torrential monsoons that you walk through. Sometimes we run, normally walk, because it's about walking and talking with people, but it has been a wonderful experience. You touched on the wildlife, and this is the part that when we walked around I was like, tell me everything, because I love it. Let's talk animals and numbers as well, because I love your memory for this. It's wild. So obviously, there's a huge amount of wildlife in the jungle, and I was sort of recording slowly, just on a piece of paper every day, what I'd seen. So I wrote to NParks, which is the National Parks Authority of Singapore, and I said to them, hey, listen, I'm here pretty much every day of the year at about the same time. I am recording roughly what I'm seeing and where I'm seeing it. Would you like the details? And they said that'd be great. It was really good. So at the end of every month, I send them a spreadsheet which has been updated with all the different wildlife that I've seen. I think probably now after, after 2 years of doing that email probably goes straight into the trash. But at least at the beginning point, they were very interested by it. And I think it has been used for quite a lot I know it's been used for quite a lot of sort of surveys that they've been conducting up there. So I set up in my head what I call the McRitchie Big Five, which is meant to emulate the Safari Big Five. But there aren't any rhino, water buffalo, elephant, lion, or leopard in Singapore, as far as I know. I think there was once a tiger there. That's killed at Raffles or something.
Many moons ago,
But what there are lizards, there are snakes, there are wild boar, there are monkeys, and there are pangolin. And so there are colugo. We'll come to pangolin. So there are colugo. I've sort of taken a record of all of those that I've seen. So you'll know all of those animals, perhaps apart from the colugo, which I think you may have seen.
Yes.
But the colugo it's like a flying fox. It's about a foot long with 2 foot wingspan. They come out dusk or dawn, and you see them on trees, and they slide up and down the trees and then float between the trees as they jump. And there's a couple that live right at the beginning of the walk, which I sort of first spotted in about September 2023. And they had a baby in October, November, which is very cute.
Never seen one before. And I didn't know if it was a civet cat or if it was a bat and to be honest, when you had said that to me, I was like, a coligo, I was like, I don't even know what that is. I'm looking at it. But it's just amazing.
No, it's very cool. So at the beginning there are two there and a little baby, or the baby's grown up now. But I've got to know which one's which is the male, which is the female. So around McRitchie, I've seen a total of 23 coligo.
Wow.
In different places.
Yeah.
So that's not including the fact I've seen the same ones at the beginning. Yeah. Maybe every fortnight you see them.
Yeah.
But I've seen 23. Monitor lizards, I've seen 537.
And you know what? I was walking with my husband there a couple of weeks ago, and we were looking at a beautiful heron or something, and then all of a sudden, like, almost stood on a monitor lizard the size of this table.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then there was another one next to it and another one just on the other path, and I was like, just scared the life out of me.
They are huge. They're very Jurassic, aren't they?
They are. Like, I think before coming to Asia, I didn't know that they could get as big as they do.
So back in the day, I've got to know so many people because of McRitchie. There's a community of people who are up there at the same time every morning. And so I've taken quite a few of those people as well, because there's been some newspaper and TV footage of the challenge. And so they've seen and said, oh, could I come and join you? I was like, yeah, of course. So I've heard quite a lot of stories about McRitchie over the years. And back in the day, kids used to go there for swimming lessons and also for canoeing. There's a kayak club up there as well now, but swimming previously. And it's a little bit like a snow day in the UK every now and again when crocodiles would be spotted there. And obviously they were told they couldn't go in. So there are occasionally crocodiles, but I haven't seen one there. Lizards, 537. I can't promise that I haven't seen the same one more than twice, actually.
Hard to tell the difference.
Yeah, exactly. Monkeys, it's very, very rare that you don't see them. There's only been 2 days that I haven't seen them. But I've seen hundreds and hundreds of baby monkeys, obviously, different types of monkeys as well, macaques and various others.
And they're naughty.
They are naughty.
Well.
We've had 3 attacks with monkeys jumping into bags or running up people's arms. But I've sort of got used to it, and I'm sure they probably know who I am by now as well. I've also seen a monkey giving birth, which was beautiful. It was amazing. I mean, it was extraordinary. I've seen a monkey, unfortunately, a monkey baby being killed by a monitor lizard, which was rather unfortunate.
Oh no!
But it's just the circle of life. So monkeys every day, pretty much, apart from 2. Yesterday I saw probably 150. It was just it was teeming with them. And then wild boar, I've seen 59 now of those, including being caught in a family of 10. There's a great video that I've got of that, which was very cool. But that's pretty impressive. I saw 4 about a week ago, actually, just up there all together. I think probably a mum and 3 babies. And then the snakes, which everyone's really mostly interested in.
Right, give me the snakes. Come on.
Yeah. So I got used to it. And when I don't know what the animal might be, what I tend to do is put it onto Singapore wildlife sightings on Facebook, and I'll say, hi, guys, anybody knows what this is? And you'll find out what it is. But now I'm sort of used to it. I know roughly what things are. Yeah. I've seen 8 equatorial spitting cobras. I've seen.
Are they the kind of grey ones?
They're black with white gills.
Black with white gills.
And they can get pretty long, about a meter, 2 meters long, probably at the biggest. I've seen quite a few babies of those. I've seen 4 Burmese python.
Wow! And were they big?
3 of them in the trees, and then 1 of them on the pathway. They're very big. Very big, very thick. Yeah. I've seen 3 king cobras. And they are equally very, very large, brown and long. I've also seen a king cobra and a python fighting each other. And that went viral on Mothership when that happened.
I was like to say, anyone who's watching, just Google Cobra versus Python, Singapore. And it's incredible how many videos will come up.
It's extraordinary.
Who knew they were arch enemies?
No, exactly.
There's one outside of Singapore University, and it's the most horrific video of this like cobra and python fighting, because they're both just massive as well. Yeah,
no, they are absolutely huge. I've seen various other ones. There's something called the Waggler's pit viper, which is beautiful, but you wouldn't want to get nipped by that. It wouldn't be great. And then I've seen 12 of the blue Malaysian coral snake, and they are absolutely stunning. They can get to about 2 meters long. They're quite thin, black, but with a electric blue stripe down them, and an orange tip and an orange head. And if you get bitten by one of those, it's unlikely you would do. They're quite timid. If you get bitten by one of those, you've got 100 paces. They're called the 100-pace snake because there's no anti-venom for them, and they're the second most toxic snake in Asia.
Oh, God.
and they are living in our vicinity here in Singapore.
Yeah.
And they hunt cobras. That's what they do for a living.
Do
That's
they?
their job. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So as well as those, so that's the McRitchie Big Five. I've seen so many other things though.
Yeah.
So there are.
So do you see any of the Japanese Oriental whip snakes?
Yeah, tons.
The green one, the
Tons,
ones with
yeah.
the blood fat
Yeah.
head, and
You sort of get used to where you're going to see them as well. So the bigger snakes tend to be sort of on the ground or sort of lower or in the trees.
Yeah.
And you know roughly where they're going to be. So the pit vipers tend to be sort of at shoulder height, weirdly.
Oh, really?
It's because they sort of climb up and then fall asleep on branches.
Right.
So that's where you tend to see them. But they're all over the place. If you look, you know where to look. You sort of just about find them.
So
I get quite close to them nowadays.
Yeah.
I've got used to it. I'm never quite sure if I'm excited or frightened by them.
Both, definitely, for sure. And obviously kind of coming from England where we just very rarely see snakes, if at all, right?
Yeah.
I'm always looking out for them.
Yeah.
But part out of curiosity, partly out of like excitement and fear.
So sorry.
So rare.
There we are completely.
So
it's wonderful. And lots of people say, "Oh, I've never seen one." And
I think I've probably seen 8 in 10 years. But it's like, because we live by the sea, so we'll see kind of the blue and black stripy sea crates. Yeah. So we see those. Yeah. There's a few kind of around our condo, but they're all tiny, thin little things.
Well, there was scandal in Faber Park, which is where I live in Singapore, over the Christmas period, because I was back in the UK, and the helper wrote me a text message to say, Sir, Bo, which is the name of the cat, my cat, has caught a snake. Oh, and the snake was all around the house. I've never seen one there ever before.
Oh, no.
So that was scandalous on Boxing Day.
Oh, God. The snake in the house. And you do hear about it every now and then, people finding snakes under their fridges or like snakes coming up through the toilet.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. I'm always, when you're in, there are restaurants and stuff around McRitchie, when you go, I'm always looking around to see whether or not there are snakes in the rafters. But,
same. I remember seeing a video once of a snake coming up a toilet bowl in Pasir Ris Park.
Oh my God.
And so now I'm like, and then it jumps back, it goes back down. And so you can't see it. And I'm like, so now before I go in any of the parks, I'm like making sure I have a really good look at the toilet because I'm just terrified.
So one of the things that I sort of haven't really got onto is that this is based in Singapore. It's the spiritual home of it is here in Singapore.
Yeah.
But because I travel a bit and because I'm from the UK, I have also decided, again, sort of organically, to do it in different parts of the world as well. So I come from basically Twickenham, Richmond area in southwest London, which is obviously home for Bushy Park and Richmond Park.
Yeah.
Richmond Park is bizarrely, it's about 200 metres shorter only than the whole loop of MacRitchie Reservoir.
Amazing. And there's deer there.
And there are deer, but no snake. So that's the alternative to the snakes, is seeing a lot of deer and lots of rutting deer. Just when I take the dog out back in the UK, I just don't want to have one of those Fenton moments where the dog runs after the deer.
Yeah.
But so I've taken out around what I call now the McRichmond challenge. You see where I'm going with that? 127 people over 89 loops there as well.
Yeah.
And then in New York, we did it in Central Park, and that's called the Big Apple Edition.
Yeah.
The MacRitchie Challenge, the Big Apple Edition, and I've taken, I think, 30 loops of Central Park, which is, and I add on 2 extra kilometres there to make it 12 kilometres because the loop of Central Park is actually about 10. Yeah. And then we do it in Paris as well. So I've done about 30 laps of Paris as well.
So that's how you keep it going when you're traveling.
Exactly. That's what I do. And so I've developed one now in the city of London, which takes in 25 different sites. The furthest, we start in the city at Ropemaker Street, and the furthest out we go to is Buckingham Palace, and then we come back via St James's. But we see Banksy paintings, we see Lincoln's Inn, we see Leicester Square, we see Chinatown, Covent Garden, nice. down the Mile, up to House of Parliament, Downing Street. It's great. Yeah, it's a really good. So that's another good one. So when we have to get up there, it's harder to get there because obviously in Singapore, getting around is quite a lot easier because it's so much smaller. Yeah. But I've taken a lot of people to do that one too as well. And it's all for the same cause really at the moment of dementia Singapore, but that will change in time.
And do you have to be present or are people doing it without you?
So up until recently, I've had to be present for it to be an official loop, but it's grown so big that I can't be everywhere. And so we're actually setting up a sort of a foundation called walktotalk.com, which is going to be for more development of this in a wider space so other people can do it and then set up their own walk to talk walks. They can publish it all over the website and take photos and all that sort of stuff. So it's grown, and I'm so proud of it because it was never intended to be anything. I've raised now, my initial target was to raise $5,000 and just do something to keep fit. I've got $225,000. I've done 733 loops, which is about 9,000 kilometers. We've walked almost all of them, but we've run quite a few. But it's been awesome, 12.5 million steps. Yeah. So all these stats, I'm a bit of a stato, but it's pretty cool.
Honestly, it's amazing. And what happened after, because you said you were starting with 75.
Yeah.
You've almost 10x that. So
So I finished it by March the 15th.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, of 2023, I said, I've loved it. Why not carry on? So I thought, well, I'll do 150.
Yeah.
I got to 150 by the middle of June. At that point, the biggest group I'd taken out was 65. This Monday, I'm taking out, I think, 72 are coming, which will be my biggest group so far.
That's a big one.
And that I need people to help me with that. So you've got to come and help me be a marshal for it.
For sure, yeah.
And that we're doing a little joint venture with the group called Just Jalan here in Singapore, which is which is part of the Pro Bono Singapore stable for giving free advice or pro bono legal advice to people who require it. So it's just doing something for them and to raise funds and awareness for them rather than dementia for this particular one. And just carried on and carried on. So June 23, I got to 150. I said to one of my friends who I call a founder, there are 3 founders. Yeah. I mean, they say they have nothing to do with it, but I call them that because if, like in a true sort of private equity deal, if they're the founders, then all liability rests with them if it goes wrong. But obviously, it was me that sort of set it up. But so one of the founders, I said, I'll do 275. And he said, mate, that's nearly 300, isn't it? And I said, okay, we'll do 300. So we got to 300 by the end of about November. And sort of deep down in my head, I thought, well, I better call it a day, a year from the day it started. So I'll try to push to get 365. So I actually got to 365 on January the 7th, 2024. So I did one a day for that whole period. I had, in order to do that, because right at the beginning, I wasn't doing it every day. I had to do quite a few double laps and triple laps.
Yeah.
And now I do it every day. But so it was just catching it all up. So January the 7th, and then we were going to have a party to sort of celebrate it where we do 3 laps. We'd have a lap with the founders, which sort of start at 3:50 in the morning.
Oh, gosh.
It was dark.
Yeah.
And then we had a lap with me on my own, just as I say goodbye to it, and then a lap for as many people as wanted to come. But unfortunately, circumstances in the UK, it made it quite difficult for me to get back to Singapore. And so we had to delay that little party. So eventually we had that sort of party on the 4th of May last year, where it had got to actually 440 loops, and we did all of that sort of shenanigans. There was a big party. But since then, so that was when
I'm not done.
Well, that was when I said to everybody, "Oh, this is it's finished now. We'll finish." And of course, the next day I had to take out Wells Fargo. So the other thing that I've done is I've now done, I think, 26 different corporate mornings for corporates who've asked me if they wouldn't mind me taking them out with their people on their CSR days. So I talk to them about nature, environment, all that sort of stuff, and they'll do it. So I've taken DBS, KKR, UOB,
Incredible.
Brunswick, lots of Herbert Smith, my firm, that sort of stuff.
Oh, that's fun. I'm getting like Wolf of Wall Street vibes, where like Leonardo DiCaprio is going, no, it's just about to go, I'm leaving. And then he's like, you know what? I'm not going. I'm not going. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to do more.
Less of the drugs, but probably about right. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love it. And so this obviously has been amazing. You're going to probably hit 1,000 this year, which
I suspect so.
And keep going.
Yeah.
How has this impacted like your mental health and physical health?
Physical's, I suppose, the easiest.
Yeah.
So, unbelievably. I mean, the fact that I was doing 2 a day for the first 3 weeks, having done very little over the period of sort of 2022, immediately I just pushed on through. I used to, like you, sort of run marathons. I've done a lot in my day. Having children, getting older, and finding beer made it less attractive to do marathon running.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I've always sort of been conscious of being in the gym and doing stuff. But yeah, I mean, my sort of aerobic capacity has grown significantly. I can knock out 25 kilometers no problem, and it's been very, very good. Mentally, it's just given me the opportunity to have time to think. Life has been quite tricky, and I've not gone into a lot of detail as to why, but it has been quite tricky. But having 2 hours on your own or with friends, just to listen, to talk, to think about life, really gives you an opportunity to sort of just have another look and another perspective on areas of your life which you can, try to improve if you need to.
Yeah.
It gives you, regularly, we spend all of our lives on our computers. I spend time talking to my people in my team and all that sort of stuff. But actually, you don't actually ever take a lot of time to think about who you are and think about how people perceive you. And so doing this, having that time out daily, just gives you a little bit of an ability to be able to sort of think a bit more about yourself, your personality, and your well-being.
Yeah. And do you think choosing to do something that's relatively low impact, look, it's not a flat concrete course. There's still, it can still be challenging in spots.
Absolutely. But what's been really interesting is that, one, MacRitchie Reservoir, once you're in there, you can't get out. I mean, you can, obviously, but you're basically committed to 2 hours. What I've found, which is interesting, is when I talk to people about the issues that sort of spurred this on, and I talk to them just generally, they start to open up a lot more. And so it's really been fascinating. I mean, the number of bits of gossip I've got from this, which I can't tell anybody because it's a sort of omerta.
It's like the circle. It's like the loop of secrecy or truth.
What's said in McRitchie stays in McRitchie, but it's true, is extraordinary because people do find it a lot more, a lot easier to be able to speak their mind and speak about what's actually going on. And selfishly, that sometimes makes me feel a bit better that actually issues that I considered to have been big issues are nothing when compared to others. Yeah. So it's fascinating to see how that's all sort of played out.
Yeah, I love that. It's not just like when you're talking mental health, it's not just kind of the being out in nature and, the walking and getting your endorphins going. It's actually the communication element.
Yeah,
it's the connection that you're having with other people. It's talking through things. It's almost like therapy in a way, but not just for you.
Initially, it was sort of just for me, really.
Yeah.
But it came from it wasn't planned to do that, but that's sort of what it was. But then, it just grew and grew.
Yeah.
It very much depends on the audience that we have. So the walkers or runners that we have as to what the conversation is going to be like. So the sort of smaller groups, the 2, 3, 4 type numbers are probably the best when you actually have that really more in-depth conversation. But we have, as I said, we've had up to, at the moment, 60, about mid-60s is the biggest group I've had. Next week will be bigger. And that's hard to coordinate, but you still get as much time as possible to do it.
Well, 2 hours is a long time. And you're getting a good workout, but it's not as low impact. You're getting to talk, you're getting to be in nature, and you've kind of you're having that connection. It's this perfect equation or like perfect melting pot.
Yeah, I think I really hit it at the right time because there's so much chat now about walking and talking all over the place. And I'm not saying I was the first, but it was not as high. I didn't see as much of it as I now see. I was, it's classic that you start doing something, you see more of it. But I think it has really sort of taken off, and it's a great thing. Yeah. And I think post-COVID as well, people are starting to do that a lot more too.
It's a relatively low barrier to entry. I think, what advice would you give to somebody who wants to come, but is maybe feeling a little bit shy, maybe, doesn't know anybody,
I've had lots.
Yeah.
I've had lots.
Any advice?
I had an email, a nice little story is I had an email through LinkedIn, May 23 from a young lawyer who wanted to come, had seen what I was doing and said, could she come and join? And I said, yeah, of course, absolutely. I don't tend to get people crying off. Generally, people turn up because they know what they're going for. But on that particular, the next day, actually, it was a Friday, she messaged me and I said, yes, that'd be great. She said, could I do it at the weekend because she's at work? And I said, yes. Actually, the next day, my group had cried off because one of them had got COVID. So I said, I know it sounds a bit odd, but why don't you come tomorrow? And she said, I said, I'm not a weirdo, and don't worry about it, but come tomorrow. I said, I'll be wearing a green shirt, green trousers, green shorts, and a pink hat or something. And she said, okay, I'll wear brown shorts and a purple t-shirt or something. We met. And she was nervous. I was nervous because I'd never met her before, but we just got on and we chatted. She thought, what on earth is he doing? Talking about mental health, his daughters and work. and I'm talking to him about my boyfriend living with my parents and being a young lawyer, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But we did, and we found a mutual conversation, interest in conversation, and it was really lovely. And she said at the end, "That was so great. Can I come again? Can I bring my sister and my friends?" Absolutely. You have to be inclusive to do this. I am a pretty inclusive person. If anybody wants to come along, all they need to do is text me, email me. I mean, my number's sort of all over the place now. People can find it. And it sort of goes by word of mouth as well now. But look me up on LinkedIn, and everything about my about this is on LinkedIn and Facebook and Insta.
And like, I can reassure anyone, like, you just go, and you know, I went, and who was with us when we went?
That's a good question. I've got one of my 3 lists. I can't remember. I should have checked it. Sorry.
I'm so sorry.
The lists are astronomical. I showed you my WhatsApp groups, right?
Yeah.
Which is just WhatsApp after WhatsApp. Yeah.
But yeah, it was great, and just being able to kind of go and talk and learn and hear your stories was brilliant. And it was easy, it was comfortable. And so if anyone is wanting to go,
well, I'd be more than delighted. I mean, I'm genuinely more than delighted. And
recommend
what
it.
tends to happen is that you know, with the bigger groups, you get lots of new people on it. Everybody's welcomed. New people who've not met me will win a hat under the hat laws. There's all sorts of stuff we've not talked about. The pangolins that we've seen.
Okay, so I did want to come back to the animals. Obviously, this is the best bit. So I want to talk about the pangolins and the other animals that are very, very rare that you've been so lucky to see.
Really lucky. Really lucky. I've got this amazing photo book of it. There's been a little video actually made of it, and it's on CNA as well. But so there's quite a lot of footage available if you want to look it up on YouTube and whatever. Not so long ago, I saw the stingrays giving birth. So there are stingrays there.
Yeah, I saw one when I was with you.
So I saw a stingray giving birth to probably about 12.
Wow.
Pink. They are exactly the same shape, but they are pink. Oh. I've seen the critically endangered Buffy fish owl.
What's that?
The Buffy fish owl, which is a very large owl.
Okay, wow.
I've seen that twice. But if you go around McRitchie, you'll see signs saying very, 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 very endangered, and then they show a picture of it. And I saw that, and that was pretty cool actually. And then, so above the McRitchie Big Five that I told you about, we have the king or queen of the jungle.
Yeah.
And the king or queen of the jungle is the pangolin. There are 1,000 pangolin roughly left in Singapore. And globally, they are hugely, hugely rare and endangered on the basis that a lot of their scales are used for transport and trade for use in medicine. Yeah. If we say that.
They are just the most stunning, beautiful creatures ever.
One day in about June 23, these dates are ridiculous. In about June 23, I was walking with some people who'd come over from Finland. I didn't know them. They'd been put to me by a client of mine and said, "Just take these guys out." I said, "Of course." We were walking along about one of the paths, and I thought maybe I could hear something rustling. I've got very good at knowing where, hearing things and all that sort of stuff. I heard something rustling. I thought it might be a mouse deer. So there are quite a lot of tiny little mouse deers there. Again, they're quite rare to see them, but I thought it might be that. But as I looked a bit further, I poked my head into the sort of jungle, hoping I wouldn't get bitten by a blue Malaysian coral snake. And the pangolin just walked straight out and across the path. I've got the footage, I think you've seen. Yeah. It's amazing. He walked straight out, huge thing. He looks in really great health. And so they were entranced by it, you can imagine. So since then, I've seen 4 pangolin. In Singapore, they're so rare. Actually, there's a new television documentary which Attenborough has made called Asia. And there's an episode there which is all about the Singapore Sunda pangolin. Yeah. Which is lovely to watch, actually. And the great work that people like Acres do, which is the charity here that looks after animals caught in the wild. It's extraordinary. So you have to report where you've seen them to the Pangolin Wildlife sort of Trust here in Singapore. Yeah. But there are 1,000 left, and I've seen 4. And I think they are different ones that I've seen. So pretty cool. Amazing. On the day that I first saw one, there was a story in the BBC website about how the authorities in Nigeria had seized 8 tons worth of pangolin scales that were going to be shipped over. And then they burnt them because obviously they couldn't use them. Oh, terrible. God. Absolutely dreadful. So above the king and queen of the jungle,
Mm.
I say king and queen because the first time that I told people that we had the king of the jungle, that was my diversity, equity, and inclusion day, that someone said to me, "Do you mean the queen?" I said, "Yes, okay, sorry, the queen, yes." So I tried to get it right, but I think that was so now call it the king and queen. So above that is the emperor and the empress of the jungle, and the emperor and the empress are the Samba deer, and I think currently, as at today, there are 45, 50 left. Samba deer left in the wild. A lot are up at Punggol.
So
oddly.
I've just got to say, like, until we met, there's no way I would have believed anybody if they'd have said there is wild deer in Singapore.
They're big. They don't look dissimilar to the ones that you see in Richmond Park, and they're 10 a penny there. And so I've seen 2 in McRitchie, and I saw them over consecutive days. And I suspect for that reason it was probably the same one that I saw twice. The first time I was walking in, it just ran straight out in front of me. And the 2 of us were just like, "Oh my God, what the hell's that?" And then we looked a bit further, and it was big. It's a big deer. And then the next time we saw it a little bit further along, and it was just standing still, having his lunch or something.
Yeah.
It's very very cute, very cool. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing. And that's it, right? So you've got to do it 733 times to be able to have a chance of seeing a deer once or twice, and then a pangolin 4 times. It's mental.
But you sort of, as I say, you do get used to where you're likely to see things, and I've got a good ear for it now, because I sort of know, and I know that sounds a bit silly, but it's true. You sort of, my wits are around me, and I know where things are. So, for example, I know where you'll see the great big soft shell snapping turtles. There are 2 that live at a particular point. I know that you're likely to see them probably 4 or 5 times a week, 4 or 5 days out of the week.
Yeah.
I know where there's quite a good spot where you see little turtles or terrapins and monitor lizards together. Unfortunately, I've seen quite a few turtle and terrapin mass executions, which is not very fun to see. But you see them together, and there's a particular bit where the monitor lizards sit and just wait to eat them. I've seen that a lot. So you sort of get used to it, it,
Oh, it's just magic. So, okay, you want to come and walk McRitchie, you can get some exercise, feel great, feel connected to other people. It's going to be great for your mental health, and you get to see some animals.
Yeah.
This is just.
I can't promise them. As I said, there's only been 2 days when we've not seen monkeys. But unfortunately, the same person was on both days when we didn't see monkeys. And so the next day, annoyingly, I saw a pangolin. It was unbelievable. And I sent the picture to the guy that didn't see the monkeys, and he's like, "This is ridiculous. I'm going to have to come again." I was like, "Oh, there you go. Come again.
You're cursed.
Don't
come again."
Exactly.
So just the last thing I just wanted to ask you was what's the plan? So you've talked a little bit about walk to talk, but where would you love this to go? What would the impact that you would like to have?
Look, the whole thing, I'm so humbled by the growth that has taken on. I'm so humbled and amazed by the amount of people who've shown so much interest in it. Every day, even now, I'm receiving 4 or 5 messages a day from people, new people, old people. "Are you in Singapore? Are we doing it? You in London? Can we do it in London?" Yeah, okay, absolutely. But 4 or 5 new people daily I'll get. Last night, I think I had 3 new people write to me about it.
Yeah.
So my plan had originally to be to end it, but I love it and I can't stop it. And it is a bit OCD, but I love meeting new people. I love the effect it has on them. Excuse me. I love the thrill of perhaps seeing another animal. I like doing it on my own as well. I can't see it stopping, unfortunately. And so everybody that says, "Oh, you're carrying on, you're going to carry on," yes, I will. And so this walk to talk is going to basically broaden it so that we can do it in more countries, and I don't need to be involved in everything. People can take it on themselves, they can do it themselves, but all with the sort of general principles of it being for well-being, mental and physical well-being, and recording what you're seeing. And so we'll see. It's very, very it's very fluid and very organic. I've been approached by a number of quite well-known other sort of groups to do sort of joint ventures with them in the UK and in France actually as well.
Great.
To do something similar with them. So we'll see where that lands, but it's exciting.
I just love how something that started out as for yourself is just connected with so many people and like resonated and that's, some of the most impactful things just happen organically.
Yep.
and just evolve how they are. And you've just learnt into it and gone, you know what, let's see.
And it's taken
goes.
a lot of time, taking a lot of blood, literally blood, sweat, a lot of sweat, and a few tears as well, because it does give you an opportunity to really reconsider where you're going and your life and all that sort of stuff as well. And doing it in the sort of open air and community is wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, it's magic. Thank you so much, Tom.
Pleasure.
I've loved talking to you today, and I just hope that this inspires people to get out there, get walking, get talking. And if you're in Singapore, come,
drop me an email. Maybe you'll put the details on the
100%
on it, and send the links and all that sort of stuff. And I would be very, very honoured for people to come and join me, wherever that may be. And if you don't want to do it, or you can't do it with me, do it on your own, because it's beautiful. Because the other thing that's been so lovely is that people keep talking to me about it when they've done it themselves. You did earlier. I said, I've just been to McRitchie. I was thinking about you, or I saw a snake or whatever it might be. Do you know what this might be? And all the groups that have been put together, those groups, very rarely do people leave those groups, and they keep talking to each other. So unfortunately, I'm the common denominator, so I get all these blooming messages, but it's lovely to see that we've had one coupling up. So we've got one romance. So I hope I can get my hat out for that. And let's see what else happens.
Oh, thank you so much just for sharing just your journey and your story. And it really is a powerful reminder that even maybe in the face of personal challenges, we can find strength and resilience and purpose by connecting with nature, maybe setting some ambitious goals, connecting with people, and maybe finding or contributing something that's larger than ourselves.
Thank you so much. Come again. You know where I'll be at 6:30 tomorrow morning.
Oh yeah, you know what? I've got another recording to 6 o'clock, the earliest tomorrow morning, but I will 100% be there with you in the next few weeks, because I loved it last time.
Thank you, Michelle.
So listeners, I hope you're as inspired by Tom's story as I was. Just remember, creating an upward spiral is about taking intentional steps, embracing challenges, and finding inspiration in unexpected places. So if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to The Upward Spiral, leave us a review and share it with your friends. And let's continue this conversation on social media. I'll link to everything below. I'll link to all of Tom's profiles below. Please feel free to reach out to him and support his fundraising efforts for Dementia Singapore, and join him on a walk. Until next time, keep spiraling upwards, and I'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.